episode of Equity Mates. My name is Bryce, and as always, I'm joined by my equity mate Ren, or Alec, I should say. And Alec, it is our favourite day of the week.
Best day of the week. You've got through Wednesday, and now you get to settle in and watch Watchlist Wednesday. We've got an expert here to talk about three of her favourite stocks.
Yes, so sit back and relax while we do none of the work and ask our expert. And it is our pleasure to welcome Emilie O'Neil, who is ESG and Investment Analyst at Perennial E-Invest.
Hi guys,
Welcome.
How are you going?
Good to see you again.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure.
So we had Emilie on the show at some point last year, and we have invited her back to talk us through three stocks that are on her watch list, all obviously in the ESG space.
Yeah, well, ESG related.
ESG related,
Yeah.
nice.
And
Good caveat.
Yeah, not unethical.
Yeah, so they're all ESG stocks that we hold in our portfolio, which is the IMPQ,
Yep.
which is an active ETF on the stock exchange. So yeah, happy to share some tips.
Nice.
Well, the first stock you gave us was Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, ASX ticker BEN. So can you tell us a little bit about the company, what it does? Well, it's a bank, so I'm sure we can figure that out. But then why you like it?
Yeah, so it's we kind of have a small cap focus, but it's one of our largest stocks, and as most of the audience would know, it is a bank. It is one of Australia's regional banks, so it's not the big four, but they like to call themselves Australia's better big bank. So it still has 50 billion in home loans, 56 billion in deposits. But what we really like about it is its community banking model. So it actually has 320 community branches, and they're mostly in regional towns. And in more than 20% of the case, that they actually are the only financial institution in that suburb or town. And obviously that's so important for financial inclusion for people who live in regional Australia and have to travel hundreds of kilometres just to get to a bank. So we love that they have that kind of model. And they actually have reinvested almost $300 million back into community through the revenues of the community banking model, which is fantastic, and we really like it for that. But I guess from a growth or investment point of view, it's just had its first half 21 result. Yeah. The stock performed really well on the back of the result. It showed home loan growth of 9%, which was above the system growth of 0.1%. So doing really well. And its deposits were 2.2 times the system growth rate as well. And what was great was they're showing operating leverage. So revenue was up 5%, but costs were down 3%. So they're working on their cost out strategy, which is fantastic. They have a CEO who's a female and also a female chairperson. And it's not that often that you have that combination, and we're quite passionate about gender diversity. So we love that. And they're also kind of investing in the fintech space. So they've formed relationships with Upbank, which is a digital-only mobile platform. You might have heard of it. And they have over 300,000 users. And they also have a relationship with TikTok, which is a virtual home loan provider. So you can go start an application and get a home loan in 60 minutes in some cases.
Through TikTok?
Through TikTok, yeah.
What? Wow.
TikTok's everywhere.
Oh, not the social media app. Oh, another TikTok.
Oh, I was like, wow. Here I am doing
That is confusing, actually. That is confusing. It's spelled different.
Yeah, it's like, it makes sense because they've got this pretty interesting platform for creators to earn money from advertisers.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking, okay, well, they're just expanding into payments and home
Marnie,
loans.
who's the CEO, collab opportunity.
So, yeah, it's not the TikTok that we...
No, sorry, I should have clarified.
Yeah, so that's interesting. What is it that is driving such difference in their home loans relative to what the industry average is?
Yeah, they've really been investing in their platform, and I also just think their exposure to locations, and they've been winning on rates. What we saw during COVID is that people kind of retreated to the major banks because that's what feels safe to them. That's what people know. They've been around for 100 plus years. In a pandemic or in a recession, people like to go to the banks because they think they can trust them. Now that the pandemic's kind of settled, I think we're seeing a little bit more of the competition coming back from the non-majors. So I think that's what's driving it. And also just they've really tried, that's been part of their strategy is to grow the book, and they've finally been able to execute on it.
I mean, there's been a lot of talk about house price growth in regional areas driven by sea changes and tree changes,
Yeah.
people moving out of the major cities. Has that been a big driver for
Definitely,
them?
and I think the regional growth, because they do have exposure to, I mean, the head office is in Bendigo, which is in regional Victoria, so they do have exposure to that regional portfolio. So that's definitely helped, and it's one of the things we were thinking about when we were looking at our portfolio. And okay, what's the move to the regional, to coastal? What are the beneficiaries? And obviously Bendigo is one of those.
Yeah, that's interesting. So that was Bendigo and Adelaide Bank. The ticker is BEN. Let's move on. I love this name. The ticker code is DOC. If you haven't heard of it, it is Doctor Care Anywhere.
It's cool, isn't it?
It is cool.
So Dr.
Is that why it's in the portfolio?
Name only. That's our investment thesis. So Dr. Care Anywhere is one of our kind of COVID beneficiary stocks, and it IPO'd early December last year. We participated in the IPO round, which is a great thing that we can do in IMPQ is kind of participate in those IPO listings. They IPO'd at 80 cents. They're now trading at about $1.30, so we've done quite well. And as the name kind of suggests, they have an online telehealth system where you can access doctors anywhere, anytime, for appointments or for referrals or to get scripts. And they also have a platform that allows you to keep your electronic health record. And so that's really significant. So it creates efficiencies for the doctor, but also the patient, because they have all of their records in one place. It's a really interesting stock because their revenue went up 100% this year. Obviously, people haven't been able to physically see a doctor, but they can still access health services through online. So it's been critical. It operates mostly in the UK and Europe, where obviously they've been pretty impacted by COVID. And I think with a pandemic, a lot of healthcare providers worried that people aren't going to go to a doctor, they're not going to get diagnosed, they're not going to get treated. This is going to cause long-term health issues. But with this service, they're able to see a doctor. They're expanding into mental health. And we know that 10% of Dr. Care Anywhere's patients do present with mental health concerns. So they've got growth opportunities. They're looking to go further internationally. So we think it's a great stock.
It feels like this is a structural change that's happening with medical care, even pre-COVID. Stocks like it's Teladoc that's listed in the US, which is a big one. I think at the Hearts and Minds conference last year, 2 of the stocks pitched were in this space, telemedicine, telehealth. Why do you like Dr. Care in this space compared to some of its competitors?
Yeah, definitely. So they actually target, so they don't go direct to consumer. So they actually partner with insurance companies and corporates to issue doctor services to employees. So the employees aren't actually paying for the service. It's typically there's no out of pocket, and they're actually seeing a 75% patient reoccurrence rate, which is pretty high, and they've got an 80 net promoter score, which is pretty solid as well. So it's an interesting revenue model.
It's an interesting one. You speak of mental health and, through experience, I guess, and, chatting to friends and whatnot, doing those sort of consultations over the phone can often not be as effective as doing something like this face to face. And I would assume the same with doctors. So I'm just wondering how long it takes for like the majority of people to sort of catch on to something like this, because it's personally, have you experienced a telehealth?
No.
Yeah.
And I feel
telehealth?
like...
No, I haven't actually.
Yeah, so it's an interesting one where it's like, I think I'd still prefer to go to the doctor.
Yeah, I don't think I would opt to do it at this point.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but I think like if you think about the vulnerable communities, still might have hesitation going out, people who are immobile, or even just really busy people who don't have time to see a doctor or just need a quick script or, whatever it may be that you can do easily through telehealth or through video consultation. It makes sense. Maybe for things where you need a physical examination, that's pretty hard to replace. I mean, physio, for example.
Vaccines.
They're tricky, but I think there'll always be a market for it, even in a post-COVID world.
I feel like it's one of those things where you just need people to take the first step and realise that it's not that different. And for me, it's probably going to be when I want to chuck a sickie from Equity Mates and I need a doctor's note.
No sickie.
Yeah, things like quick scripts, doctor's notes, that's the way in, and then maybe I'm like, it's pretty
What's
easy.
the next thing?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So that is Dr. Care Anywhere, DOC, obviously listed on the ASX. To close out, another interesting name, and that is Limeade.
Yeah.
ASX LME is the ticker.
Yeah, so interesting name. I don't think it's gained much traction on the name, but look, it's unique, which is fantastic. This is one of our stocks that we put in a bucket called the COVID recovery bucket. So it's one that struggled a little bit during the pandemic, but we think as the economy opens up, as the vaccine rolls out, it will be a beneficiary. What they actually do is they're an employee engagement and wellbeing platform. So they help to make organisations a better place to work by delivering wellbeing services, engagement, inclusion, measurement, and reporting. And it's culture is so important for place of work. And I think...
Tell me about it.
Particularly with millennials, you're seeing that actually dollars paid isn't the main driver of where they want to work anymore. It's, do they feel valued? Do they have a corporate culture that they identify with? Even in the last 24 months in Australia, we've seen a number of stocks, I'm sure you can think of some, that have had poor corporate culture and have ended up having misconduct issues. It's a significant driver. And even in the pandemic, working from home and flexible working is here to stay in some form or another. How do you get employees to feel connected to their workspace? And we know Limeade did research where employees who feel that their companies care about them are 9 times more likely to stay with the company for over 3 years. And that's pretty important for turnover. That has financial implications. They're also 2 times more likely to be engaged, and that's a productivity benefit. So it's really, really important. And even though, because it's a business-to-business player, that market has struggled a little bit. They haven't been able to get out there and market face-to-face. Corporates have cut human resource budgets. People have been laid off. It hasn't been the right environment to grow. But despite that, they were able to get 18 new enterprise contracts this year, including the University of Texas system, which is really positive. And the great thing about their model is that they have multi-year contracts and it's a recurring revenue stream. And if you look at other SaaS players in the market, so software as a service, they're looking relatively cheap compared to them. And as people realise that they need to invest back in their business, as they gain confidence, we think it will be a beneficiary.
It's an interesting one because you say because of COVID, or it's a COVID play and business to business, then waiting for more businesses to spend money in this space. But personally, I think it would be a time that businesses should be spending money in culture, given that it's such a change. If you've gone from working 5 days a week to 5 days at home, it's like you probably need to be spending money on how do we build a culture when we don't actually have anyone in the office.
I 100% agree.
Yeah.
And I mean, there were still 18 corporates who signed on, which is great. But I think people, they just don't know where to spend their money at the moment, or they've really had to have budget cuts. The HR has been reduced. So I just think it is one that when corporates realise that they do need to invest in this space, that it should rally and they should be able to see increased revenue.
Yeah, nice.
One last question. When, as a business leader, you're looking at Limeade, and I guess the question is, do we buy this from a player like Limeade, or do we try and build it ourselves? And I guess the question is, what does Limeade have that makes it, I guess, better or more unique than something a company could build itself in-house?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, any software can be rebuilt, but the people who started Limeade are actually ex-Microsoft employees. They have a lot of PhD who are doing all of the research behind it, and they have some really key corporate clients, and it's kind of something that once you have it, you kind of need to continue to have it, right, to help your employees. So they've got the state of Washington as a client. They've got one of the top 5 global tech players. So they're pretty significant names that they've got on the register, which is why we like Limeade.
Well, Emilie, unfortunately that is all we have time for today, but thank you for coming in and sharing your 3 stocks for Watchlist Wednesday. A reminder, that was Bendigo and Adelaide Bank, Dr. Care Anywhere, and Limeade. And if you would like more information, you can head to eInvest website or Perennial.
Yeah, yep. So IMPQ are listed on the stock exchange, or quoted on the stock exchange as an active ETF.
Nice. Well, that's all we have time for today's Watchlist Wednesday. Hopefully you were able to get something out of that helps you on your investing journey. And Ren, tomorrow we're closing out with some insights.
Yeah, we've got Alex Barrett from Stake on to talk 13F filings, to talk ARK Invest ETFs and Bitcoin.
Nice.
Yeah.
Can't wait.